They weren't supposed to be out here overnight. The plan was simple. Hike in, camp for one night, prove they weren't kids anymore, hike out by noon. Jake had found Whispering Pass on an old hiking forum, threads cut off mid-conversation, users never replying again. That's just bad internet, Jake had laughed. Ethan hadn't laughed. From the moment they crossed the weather-beaten wooden sign, Whispering Pass, enter at your own risk, the forest felt wrong. No birds, no wind. Even their boots sounded too loud, as if the snow resented being disturbed. By dusk, the temperature dropped brutally. They pitched their tent near a frozen creek, the trees forming a crooked circle around them. When Ethan tried to start the fire, the wood resisted, crackling weakly before finally igniting. Jake grinned. See? Nature likes us. That was when Ethan noticed something strange. Footprints. Not theirs. Barely visible under fresh snowfall, leading away from the camp, and then abruptly stopping, as if whoever made them had simply vanished. At 10:43 p.m., Jake heard whispering. Not wind, not branches, words, low, close. Ethan followed the sound with his flashlight and found a tree carved with names, hundreds of them. Dates beside each name. The last date read February 14th, 1999. Jake swallowed. That's Valentine's Day. Before Ethan could reply, the whispering stopped. The forest went silent again. Then the snow shifted behind them. A tall shape stood between the trees, barely visible, blending into the snowfall. No face, no features, just a darker absence where light refused to settle. Jake stepped back. Ethan, run. They ran. Branches clawed at their jackets. Their breath burned. Behind them, the footsteps followed. Never faster, never slower. The thing didn't chase. It waited. They burst back into camp, slamming into the tent. Ethan zipped it shut with shaking hands. The footsteps stopped just outside. Something pressed gently against the fabric. A hand? A voice whispered again, this time clearly. You left the fire. Ethan remembered something his grandfather once told him. In the deep winter forests, fire isn't warmth, it's permission. They relit the campfire frantically. The moment the flame returned, the pressure vanished, the footsteps retreated, the forest exhaled. They didn't sleep. At dawn, they packed silently and followed the trail back until they reached the carved tree again. But now, there were two new names, Ethan Blake, Jake Turner. No date yet. The snow behind them shifted. Ethan struck a match and held it high. The forest recoiled. They didn't stop running until the warning sign reappeared. The moment they crossed it, sound returned. Wind, birds, life. Jake laughed shakily. We're never camping again. Ethan didn't answer, because later that night, when he emptied his pockets, he found something he hadn't brought with him. A piece of frozen bark. Carved into it were 4 words, "Keep the fire alive."
The darkness in the pines. The crunch of gravel beneath their tires signaled the end of the drive and the beginning of their camping trip. As they stepped out of the car, the cool night air enveloped them, carrying the scent of pine and damp earth. Maha and Amira had been planning this trip for months, eager to escape the city's noise and reconnect with nature. They quickly set up their tent in a clearing surrounded by towering trees that seemed to stretch up to the stars. The fire crackled to life, casting flickering shadows on the forest floor. As they sat down to roast marshmallows, the woods grew quieter, the silence punctuated only by the occasional hoot of an owl. Maha, ever the thrill-seeker, began to tell scary stories, her voice low and menacing. Amira laughed and joked, But as the night wore on, the fire's warmth couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. She glanced over her shoulder, but the darkness seemed to swallow everything beyond the fire's reach. As they settled in for the night, Maha suggested they take turns keeping watch. Amira volunteered for the first watch, her eyes scanning the darkness. The silence was oppressive, and she began to feel like she was the only one left awake in the world. Suddenly, a branch snapped in the distance. Amira's heart skipped a beat as she strained to see what had caused the noise. The trees seemed to loom closer, their branches like skeletal fingers reaching out. She called out, "Maha," but there was no response from the tent. Amira's fear turned to panic as she scrambled to wake Maha. But as she turned to grab her friend, she felt a chill run down her spine. Maha was already outside the tent, her eyes black as coal, her skin deathly pale. Amira froze, her voice caught in her throat. Maha's voice, low and raspy, whispered, "I'm not the one who's been sleeping." The trees seemed to lean in, their branches tangling together like a living cage. Amira's screams were drowned out by the sound of the wind rustling through the pines, and the darkness closed in, eternal and unyielding. The next morning, park rangers found Amira's car, abandoned and covered in dew. The campsite was empty, the tent ripped apart from the inside. A piece of paper caught in a branch above the fire pit had a single phrase scrawled on it: "We're still watching." The rangers searched the woods, but Maha and Amira were never seen again.